Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel just released a big Avengers Doomsday trailer at their Cinemacon panel recently. Everybody was going crazy. It seemed like the hype was through the roof again, but at the same time, they were also secretly in the middle of firing a big portion of the people who actually work at Marvel Studios, including one of their most important teams. One of the most awkward situations where things seem like they're going really well because of all the Avengers Doomsday stuff, but you have Mickey Mouse running around rampant in the background firing people at will. The Avengers Doomsday trailer kind of buried the story about them firing the people just because people were so focused on the new footage, so we'll break it all down and explain who got fired and why. If they were such a critical part of the studio, why would you fire all these people during the year you're trying to turn the hype around on the whole brand of movies and TV shows? But this is just the beginning, and Marvel was not the only group that was hit really hard recently with a bunch of people being fired. It was part of a larger amount of layoffs at Disney with all their different studios, including Lucasfilm, Star Wars stuff, Marvel, all their other brands too. And the same thing is about to happen on the other side of the aisle of the street with James Gunn's DCU and Warner Brothers, which includes HBO, all the Game of Thrones shows like House of the Dragon, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the new Aegon's Conquest movie they're making, the new Harry Potter TV show, all of their big brands. We will focus mostly on what happened with Marvel, but I'll also explain why DC is firing a bunch of people this year too at the end of the video. If you got distracted by all the Avengers Doomsday trailer hype this week, Marvel revealed that it had fired its entire visual development team in addition to a bunch of other people in various different departments. Like, Marvel is a very large beast. A lot of people got fired in a bunch of different places, but in particular, the team that was hit the hardest was the visual development group. People getting fired sucks no matter where they work, but the reason why them firing the visual development team was such a big deal is because Kevin Feige personally started the team back in 2010. Some of them had worked at Marvel as far back as the mid-2000s, developing the first Iron Man movie, the first Incredible Hulk movie, so basically the very beginning of traditional Marvel Studios, the MCU as you know it. But the actual formal visual development team didn't become an actual thing until 2010, around the time Iron Man 2 was coming out.
Being that sort of medium between the comics and what is actually on screen has been a joy that I couldn't have imagined.
And it was their group at Marvel that Kevin Feige had developed the entire visual style and aesthetic for every single Marvel movie and TV show that you have seen between the beginning of the MCU and now, including Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, because they just got fired last week, meaning that they would have already done all their work on Avengers Secret Wars. They were responsible literally for the look and feel of every single part of the MCU since the very beginning. This also means that they worked on all the TV shows that are coming out this year, like we're in the middle of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, but Vision Quest is also coming out later this year. They also would have worked on Daredevil Born Again Season 3, which is coming out next year, the stuff that we're going to see in the next couple of years. There are also a couple unannounced live-action TV shows Marvel is working on right now too that they would have worked on. It's really starting to seem like Disney thinks that Marvel is starting to hurt for cash. Everybody look inside your couch cushions to see if you can find a couple extra dimes to throw their way. Speaking of which, thank you to FreeCash for sponsoring today's episode. FreeCash is a free service you can use to complete surveys and test out games to make extra money. I played Monopoly and managed to get a little bit. Once I hit $25, I click here to get my money. On Trustpilot, they have over 250,000 reviews. Most of us already spend way too many hours on our phones playing games. You might as well play games and make money at the same time. Once you actually earn money, there are a bunch of different options you can use for payouts. PayPal, Stash, bank transfer, Stake, Visa gift cards, there are many. Seriously, it's as simple as that, so if you're looking for a way to earn money for being on your phone and play games, look no further than FreeCash. Everybody use my QR code. I'll put it up here on screen or the link down in the description below to download the game, and they'll give you a $10 bonus for the first game that you play. So be sure to check it out, play some games, earn some money, and thank you to FreeCash for sponsoring this video. But the visual development team was Kevin Feige's personal baby inside Marvel Studios. One of his most important creations. Like, if he's responsible for what Marvel Studios is today, they were probably one of the most important groups within Marvel Studios. All because of how they were the bridge between the original source comic books, like the comic book creators that Marvel used to adapt all their movies and TV shows, and what actually wound up on screen, what the movies actually end up looking like. And Kevin Feige has repeatedly says his whole ethos at Marvel Studios is that everything be as much like the comics as possible. He's always been the comic book guy inside Hollywood that during the late 90s and early 2000s, people really shied away from. They really did not like until he came to power in the early 2000s and started the MCU as you know it. So the idea is the visual development studio were the people who would translate those original comics to something that the directors, the Hollywood people who would create the costumes, the sets, the weapons, big battles, and visual effects like the visual effects artists would wind up looking like. And one of the big jokes of the fandom too is usually the case that their concept art always wound up looking way cooler than what actually wound up in the movies. So if you saw a lot of longtime Marvel employees talking about being fired and it being really shattering this past week, this is why. For example, Andy Park, like one of the top people inside their visual development studio, said, "It's the end of an era. I was there at the beginning, a unique team that broke the mold of Hollywood and helped a studio gross over $30 billion.
Billions, with a B.
I've been here for over 16 years, spanning over 40 films and shows, 15 of which I led as Director of Visual Development Supervisor. I got to lead, work with, and hire the best artists in the entertainment business. It has been the honor of a lifetime to be part of the team that helped create the visual language of the Marvel Cinematic Universe." He, along with all the other people that he worked with that were developing the entire visual language of the MCU, just got fired. When you think about it though, the last couple of years, Marvel has really been trying to turn things around. They hit a real low point a couple years ago, and it seems like so far they've been successful in their attempts to turn the ship around, both in pulling back on the sheer quantity of stuff they're releasing and trying to reduce the chances that it turns into slop. Refocusing most of their collective attention on fewer things, in no coincidence because this is how they used to operate as a studio before 2018, 2019. It was around that time when they were releasing Avengers Infinity War and Endgame that Kevin Feige and the movie people at Marvel Studios also started handling all the TV show stuff too. This is why the older Marvel TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Netflix Defender series like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Punisher all got canceled, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways. There were more Marvel TV shows too. I've already done many videos about this whole era, like what happened during the pandemic era when Disney ordered them to release as many TV shows and movies as possible, and it hurt them real bad. But through it all, the visual development team that just got fired, all their work was 100% solid, top tier. Why then did Marvel just fire all of them? Why fire the good guys if you're trying to make all your movies and TV shows better, and they were the ones that made stuff better? There are really three big reasons, and a lot of these come from insiders talking about what was really going down inside the studio. And it all gets back to money, money, money. Like, yes, make all the jokes. Money is the real reason for a lot of these problems. But the main reason they gave for Disney firing all these people were the dramatic reduction of movies and TV shows per year that Marvel was making. Other insiders at the studio also said it was part of Disney's larger cost-cutting measures company-wide. They fired about 1,000 people, not just at Marvel and Lucasfilm or Star Wars, all their different departments. Disney fired them, not Marvel and not the Star Wars people firing their own people. Disney came in like corporate overlords, swooped in, fired a bunch of people, and then told Kevin Feige, Dave Filoni, the Lucasfilm people, hey, we're firing a bunch of your people because we want to cut costs.
It's just the way it is. I'm just a messenger.
And it's also connected to, additional reason here, Marvel leaving Atlanta in general for their production, the United States in general, for most of their stuff. They still film Daredevil inside New York City for obvious reasons, but for the most part, the real big movies, like the stuff that they really spend money on, has moved to the UK to film. And it was largely to avoid having to pay for employee health care. They have to pay crew health care for the people that work on the movies and the TV shows in the United States because of guild contracts, but not in the UK, which, because many tens of thousands of people work on all their productions, amounts to hundreds of millions of dollars that Disney is trying to save at all their different brands, their big companies and studios. And as slimy as it sounds, Disney swooping in, firing a whole bunch of Kevin Feige's favorite people like his most important team, and then telling him about it after the fact, was also to avoid having to pay all these Marvel people benefits in general, like retirement benefits, healthcare benefits, which do amount to a lot of money, and is a slimy way that a lot of really big companies avoid having to pay a lot of money. What the insiders have said is that Disney, who fired them, are allowing Marvel to rehire some of these people on a contract, movie to movie, TV show to TV show basis. Like we're talking numbers of weeks being hired to avoid having to pay them benefits and just for a small sliver of time compared to being a salaried employee and working there all the time, getting paid every single week. So there's a chance that some of these people who work on the Marvel movies and TV shows can work on some future stuff after Secret Wars, but it'll be on a very, very temporary basis. Probably the best example of that is their X-Men reboot movie. Like, why would Kevin Feige put so much attention on their X-Men movie, like how important it's going to be to the future of the MCU, and then fire one of the most important parts of his studio that's going to help them develop that movie? But to be fair to Kevin Feige and the people who actually work at Marvel Studios, he isn't the person that actually fired all these people. It's the Disney overlords who control what he does that swooped in, fired all of them, then told him about it while he was in the middle of his Avengers Doomsday Cinemacon panel, talking about how amazing the studio is right now. It is a little bit awkward to do something like that, like find out in the middle of that Disney just got rid of a whole bunch of your people.
Hey, pal. Things are still a little tense.
But like I said, the same thing is happening over at James Gunn's DC and Warner Brothers at large, like HBO, all the Warner Brothers companies. DC is just part of that. The reason why a lot of their people are being fired, DC people, is because of the Paramount-Warner Brothers merger. So in both cases, at both companies, like Disney and Warner Brothers, it's corporate overlords trying to save money by firing a ton of people. James Gunn doesn't want a bunch of his people to get fired. It's Paramount who owns the company or will own the company are the ones that want to cut costs. So it's Paramount that's swooping in to fire a whole bunch of the Warner Brothers and DC people. But I know there's going to be a lot of questions about this going forward, like will James Gunn eventually get fired by Paramount? No, his job is safe. Like, they love all the DC stuff that he's doing. They love all the Game of Thrones stuff. David Ellison, who controls Paramount, who's in charge of all this stuff, one of his favorite things is literally Game of Thrones and all the stuff that the HBO people are doing within the Game of Thrones universe and the DC movies too. But that does not save every single person at all those studios at Warner Brothers and at DC from getting fired. Usually the departments that get hit hardest in situations like that are people like this visual development team, people in marketing, support functions, mid-level managers, not the people at the actual top. It is going to be pretty chaotic for all these different companies like Marvel, DC, pretty much everybody for the rest of this year, probably next year, maybe even the year after that too. So as we hear more news about all this, I will do more videos or include it in other bonus videos. There's a lot of really good stuff coming up, like a lot of good movies and TV shows, but also a lot of really slimy stuff going on in the background too. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below. It generally sucks to hear the people get fired, especially if they're really good at their jobs. It does sound like Kevin Feige was able to shield like one or two people from being fired by Disney though. I'm in the middle of working on my new Daredevil Born Again episode. Jessica Jones is back. The Defenders have finally started to come back, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. We also have the Invincible finale and more of The Boys Season 5, which is off the chain. So everybody click here for that brand new Daredevil Born Again episode, and click here for all those other upcoming episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And thank you again to FreeCash for sponsoring this video. Check them out using the link up here on screen that you can scan or down in the description below.